What if the world was a single country? Imagine, for a moment, a world without borders, one where every continent, every island, every nation, all come together as a single country. This vast, uninterrupted land would stretch from the bustling cities of North America to the sunlit plains of Africa, from the icy reaches of Antarctica to the lush rainforests of South America and Asia. Instead of fragments divided by lines on a map, humanity would live together as part of one immense and unified political entity. The implications are staggering, both in the opportunities such a world would offer and the challenges it would confront. Let us embark on a journey to unravel what such a world might look like, diving deeply into the fabric of society, politics, economics, culture, technology, and the human heart itself. Would peace finally prevail, or would conflicts only grow more complex? Would prosperity be commonly shared, or would inequality deepen? Above all, how would the story of humanity unfold in a world where, instead of us and them, there was only we? First, let's picture the initial moment when the world becomes a single country. With the snap of a metaphorical finger, centuries-old borders fade away. Walls crumble, checkpoints disappear, and passports become relics of a divided past. Airports, previously filled with travelers anxiously clutching documents and waiting to clear immigration, now serve as simple gateways from one city to another. No different than the journey from Paris to Lyon or New York to Boston in today's world. Goods move freely across bridges and oceans. People have unrestricted access to explore every corner of the planet, and political capitals that once marked power centers now blend into a unified administrative framework. Yet, this reality would not be forged in a vacuum. Countless questions would arise. Who would lead this vast expanse? How would decisions be made for a population of 8 billion, each person carrying their own hopes, beliefs, and experiences? How would languages, thousands of them, be honored or standardized? What would become of local identities and traditions? Let's start by examining governance. In a world with a single country, the need for a governing body, far larger and more complex than any that has ever existed, becomes more undeniably clear. How might this government form? Would it resemble a massive parliamentary system, with representatives from every village, city, and region? Or would it lean towards a presidential structure, overseen by a single head of state with many regional delegates? It is likely that any sustainable model would blend elements of both, taking inspiration from federal systems like those of the United States, India, or the European Union. In such arrangements, powers are divided between a central authority and local governments, allowing for both unified decision-making and local autonomy. Imagine, then, a world parliament, a colossal chamber echoing with the voices of representatives from every nation, every tribe, every linguistic group. Members speak for Antarctica's scientific communities as passionately as they do for the crowded metropolises of Asia or the remote villages of the Amazon. They convene not in a single city, but potentially through interconnected hubs, harnessing advances in virtual communication to ensure every voice has a chance to be heard. Debates are long and passionate. Coalitions form not necessarily along the lines of traditional geography, but based on shared interests: climate action, economic reform, religious freedom, technological innovation. To manage the unprecedented diversity, a world government might devolve significant powers to regions, each defined not just by geography, but sometimes by culture or language. The political landscape would balance a central authority dedicated to global issues, like space exploration, climate change mitigation, and public health, with immense respect for local governance, traditions, and priorities. Striking this balance would be an ongoing challenge, as each region seeks recognition, autonomy, and influence. Law and justice would also take on new meaning. Instead of hundreds of legal codes, one unified framework would govern criminal and civil matters, with room for exceptions and local detail. The creation of a single world constitution would be a monumental process, drawing upon the greatest charters and declarations of rights from history. Perhaps it would declare, as did the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that all humans are born free and equal in dignity and rights. But enforcing such ideals on a global scale would be no simple task. Courts, both local and global, would wrestle with questions of fairness, custom, and precedent. Next, consider the realm of economics. In a single-country world, gone would be the days of tariffs, trade wars, and currency exchanges at every border. Goods and services would flow seamlessly, as would capital. There could be a single, unified currency, an evolution of the euro concept on a planetary scale, removing the inefficiencies and inequalities generated by exchange rates. Businesses and entrepreneurs would suddenly gain access to the largest imaginable market, spurring innovation and competition at breakneck speed. However, the economic disparities between regions would not vanish overnight. Wealthier areas, once called developed countries, would still possess advantages in infrastructure, education, and capital. The world government would face immense pressure to close these gaps. Massive development projects might be undertaken to raise living standards everywhere, with richer regions supporting those less prosperous through redistributive policies. Debates about taxation and spending would become more complex, as people considered not just local needs, but the priorities of distant neighbors they would never meet. At the same time, workers could migrate freely to pursue better opportunities, resulting in vast demographic shifts. Cities in wealthy areas might experience population booms, while less developed regions could struggle with brain drains. The government would need to manage these flows carefully, providing incentives for development and investing in lagging regions to make every corner of the country a place of promise. Financial institutions would morph into colossal entities, handling transactions and savings for billions. The world's central bank could set interest rates and monetary policy for the entire planet, responding to global recessions and bubbles with tools that, until now, have been wielded only at the national level. The challenges would scale accordingly. Containing a financial crisis in a world of interconnected economies would be both more difficult and more urgent. Now, delve into the delicate tapestry of culture and identity. Humanity's greatest strength lies in its diversity, in the kaleidoscope of languages, traditions, cuisines, beliefs, and arts. In a world with no countries, how would these vibrant differences be preserved, celebrated, and integrated? Would some cultures fade as others became dominant? Or would a new, shared global culture emerge? Language presents an immediate challenge and opportunity. Today, more than 7,000 languages are spoken around the world. In a unified country, there might be a push for a universal language to enable communication in government, education, and commerce. English, Mandarin, Spanish, or a constructed international language such as Esperanto might be considered. However, it's just as likely that multilingualism would be actively promoted, with schools and media teaching and transmitting several languages to ensure the treasures of different cultures are not lost. Technology, with real-time translation and communication aids, could help bridge the gaps without erasing the identities rooted in language. Art, music, and fashion would undergo a renaissance. With ideas traveling unchecked, creative minds from every region could collaborate as never before. Imagine an artist in Senegal working seamlessly with a designer in South Korea, a musician in Argentina exchanging melodies with a producer in Sweden, chefs from diverse backgrounds melding flavors into new global cuisines. The result would be a flourishing of innovation, fueled by access to the full expanse of human experience. Yet, with this exchange would come questions of appropriation, authenticity, and respect. Would dominant cultures overrun minority ones? Would ancient traditions survive in the face of a more homogenized global culture? Resistance to cultural imperialism would be strong, with communities passionate about safeguarding their ways of life. Cultural festivals, heritage days, and language preservation initiatives would be more important than ever, becoming not just local events, but celebrations for the entire world to witness. Religion, too, would play a significant role. Faith traditions have shaped civilizations and continue to inspire billions. In a single-country world, religious freedom would be a foundational principle, but the friction between belief systems could not be avoided entirely. Educational curricula would need to reflect the spectrum of faiths, and public spaces would be carefully managed to ensure respect for every tradition. Interfaith dialogues, already vital in today's fragmented world, would become central to social harmony, fostering mutual understanding and shared values. In this world, the most profound changes might be social. In the absence of national boundaries, the otherness that drives conflict could be transformed into neighborliness. No longer could wars be easily justified by claims of national interest. Instead, disputes would be matters of internal disagreements. Conflict resolution, therefore, would shift from armed clashes between states to political negotiation and mediation within the global community. Militaries as we know them might gradually diminish, their resources redirected to peacekeeping, disaster response, and scientific research. Yet deep-rooted rivalries and grievances would not disappear instantly. Histories of colonization, regional animosities, and cultural tensions would linger, requiring careful and persistent reconciliation work. Truth and reconciliation commissions, already models of healing in some countries, could be deployed on a global scale, enabling communities to confront the past and build a more inclusive future. Crime, too, would be perceived differently. Instead of cross-border trafficking or piracy, crime would be a matter for a single, integrated law enforcement system. This would enable more coordinated responses, but would also require immense trust in a fair and unbiased legal framework. Debates about privacy, surveillance, and rights would intensify, for the power of such an authority would dwarf any that have come before. Now, travel to the realm of science and technology. The greatest challenges facing humanity, climate change, pandemic disease, resource scarcity, even space exploration, demand cooperation on a global scale. In a world with one country, pooling resources, talent, and knowledge would bring unparalleled progress. Take climate change. Rather than agonizing negotiations between hundreds of countries, a single government could set policies that affect the whole planet. Renewable energy projects could be coordinated seamlessly, with solar farms in the Sahara and wind farms in Patagonia feeding into a shared grid, transmitting power wherever it's needed. Environmental regulations would be uniformly enforced, with polluters held to consistent standards. Conservation efforts could operate without the limitations of international borders, enabling the protection of migratory species and entire ecosystems. In the face of a pandemic, a unified government could mount a swift and coordinated response, sourcing medical supplies from wherever they're most abundant and deploying healthcare workers to any hotspot. Data sharing would face fewer obstacles, and the development and distribution of vaccines or treatments could be prioritized by need alone, without the competition and stockpiling that have plagued previous crises. Scientific collaboration would reach new heights. Think of the International Space Station, a symbol of cooperation between a handful of countries. Now, imagine a global space program, harnessing the combined knowledge, budget, and manpower of the world's best scientists and engineers. The mysteries of space, the oceans, and the mind itself could be explored with the focused energy of the entire human species. Technology would connect the globe with ever greater intimacy. Universal internet access could become a reality, powered by coordinated infrastructure upgrades. Education could be standardized, with every child gaining access to the same high-quality resources, regardless of birthplace or background. Artificial intelligence and automation could be deployed strategically to ease the hardest labor, while policymakers work to ensure no one was left behind in the transition. But with great progress comes great responsibility. The concentration of power in a single government would require vigilant checks and balances to prevent abuses. Citizens would demand transparency on a scale never before seen, pushing for open data, participatory processes, and robust protections for dissent and free speech. Finally, turn to the very heart of the human experience, the personal and emotional journey into a world without borders. For many, the loss of national identity might feel like a bereavement, a letting go of stories, heroes, and symbols that shaped their sense of self. Flags, anthems, and myths might fade, replaced by new symbols of unity, a shared anthem, a global flag. festivals and holidays celebrating all of humanity. But as one door closes, another opens. Children growing up in this new world could see themselves not as French or Vietnamese or Kenyan, but as citizens of Earth. Friendships and relationships could span continents without bureaucratic obstacles. Dreams would expand to include every corner of the planet, every adventure, every opportunity. Yet attachment to local culture, language, and community would endure. Regional pride would not disappear completely. Rather, it would coexist with a larger sense of belonging. In fact, the richness of local identities could serve as a wellspring of strength, offering stability and meaning within the immense embrace of the global community. The task of forging unity and community, of transforming billions of lives shaped by centuries of separation into one people, would be the greatest challenge this new world faced. It would require empathy, patience, and imagination. It would demand that humanity rethink its notions of difference and sameness, conflict and cooperation, justice and fairness. But it might, just possibly, mark the dawn of a new era. In a world with one country, the problems that threaten our collective survival, nuclear proliferation, environmental devastation, poverty, and war, could finally be addressed for what they are: shared human challenges that do not stop at once imagined borders. And so imagine waking up one morning in this new world. The news headlines speak not of international disputes, but of shared milestones: discovering a new cure, landing a spacecraft on Mars, eradicating hunger in a distant region. You stroll through your community, greeting neighbors who speak other languages and keep different traditions, yet all part of the common story of humanity. Your child's best friend lives thousands of miles away, yet they talk daily as if across the street. You are free to roam, to explore, to belong not just to a nation, but to the whole of Earth. In this imagined future, the phrase, "we, the people," long invoked within limited borders, takes on its fullest and most hopeful meaning. We, the people of Earth, united in purpose, diverse in culture, working together to write the next greatest chapter of our shared history. Of course, the road to such a world would not be easy. The challenges are enormous: political, economic, cultural, psychological. Power struggles would be fierce, local interests would compete with global good, and the task of building a truly just and inclusive society would be ongoing. But the prospect, that gleaming vision of a united humanity, remains as one of our species' most powerful aspirations. It is the dream that inspired countless movements for peace, justice, and dignity. Perhaps, in striving toward it, whether in small steps or bold leaps, we draw closer not just to a new kind of society, but to the fullest realization of what it means to be human. In a world of one country, the possibilities are as grand and boundless as the planet itself. The ultimate question, can we build such a world, and should we, remains unanswered, poised on the edge of our dreams and our efforts. What is certain is that contemplating this vision invites us to reimagine not just the map, but ourselves, united in diversity, brilliant with potential, and forever striving toward a better tomorrow. Thanks for sticking with us until the end of the video. What do you think would really happen if this became reality? How would the world change? Share your thoughts or your own what-if theories in the comments below. Who knows, your idea might inspire our next video. If you found this interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep exploring the wildest possibilities with us. See you in the next unexpected what-if-ish adventure.